Head coach Andrew Checketts joins us this week on the Gouch and I podcast. Believe it or not, we are a quarter of the way through the season. If my math's correct, we played 14 games, 56 total. I think now it's 55. So let's just leave it at a quarter. We're a quarter of the way through because it feels like a quarter. We're through 4 weeks. How long is the season? Is it 16 weeks officially? 17 weeks? 15?
It's a good question, Kevin, that I should know
Okay.
because I do the scheduling and I
You
look
do.
at it, but I don't know if I've ever counted the weeks. So
I feel like I did it last year for the pod because I would report them as week 1, week 2, week 3. But this we just finished week 4. We can settle with that week 4, and you did the scheduling for this weekend, and it was a bit of a scramble.
we'll have 11 weekends left,
So
so
15.
15 weekends. Yeah.
There we go. Good math.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, how did the UC San Diego at Lake Elsinore come together? Because that was a bit of a scramble, and it felt like we almost had a couple other schools come in and play as well.
Yeah, we had Yale call us on Thursday as we were driving to San Francisco and let us know that they weren't going to make the trip. There had been an issue with their spring break and it changing due to COVID. It usually was 2 weeks and it had gotten reduced to 1 week. So their administrators didn't want them to miss that first week of school. Um, so that whole bus trip was a scramble, just trying to figure out who had games left, who was local, and turned out that UC San Diego hadn't scheduled for finals week yet. So this last weekend is when finals started. Um, they had 54 games scheduled and 56 is the max, and so um, they had two. UC Davis had three. So I called Coach Newman, said, "Hey, do you have any interest in playing?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What about at Lake Elsinore?" I was trying to get a neutral site out
Yeah.
of it versus, we were already traditionally we try and schedule about, over 32 home games and the rest road games, which would leave you about 24 road games. And this year we were skewed a little bit more on the road side. We were already at 29 home games and 27 roads. When we lost Yale, we went to more road games than home games. And I didn't want to add, I didn't want to end up with 29 road games and 27 home games. So I tried to find somewhere neutral, and Coach Newman was up for it. He had a lot of connections with the Storm and was friends with their group and made some calls, and they're up for it. They'd hosted us in 15, and that was, besides us going 2-Q, it was a really good experience from a baseball standpoint, and their organization's great, turnkey, and as turnkey as it could get for running a tournament, and this was the same. So we lucked out that we were able to find the games, and then late, with some of the weather that happened in the Midwest last weekend, people were losing games, and Missouri lost their series. Gonzaga, Nebraska, um, and Long Beach was able to pick up Gonzaga when they lost their Nebraska series. We were talking about maybe having Missouri join us, down at Lake Elsinore. In a perfect world, we probably would have found somebody to play um, San Diego that weekend and somebody to play at our place so that we didn't have to travel. But it's not always a perfect world. So we're, it was a good experience. It was good to, we're friends with those guys down there. The games were good and competitive. And I thought it worked out well.
Yeah, I agree. And it was cool to go back and shout out to the Lake Elsinore Storm and all their staff. They did a great job. Thought everybody in the press box was very hospitable and helpful. And of course, the field was in great condition. I know Joe Jimenez, who we saw at the yard, his protege running things down there, and they did a great job getting the field ready in a short amount of time so that we could play. So that was great. Gauchos won 2 games, and they go to 10-4 on the season. And so it's weird this year, as you mentioned, with the kind of heavy road schedule. In the 14 games, Gauchos have played 10 of the 14 away from home. They played the series at San Francisco, one at LMU, the 4 at Oregon, and the 2 at UCSD. So through 14 games, 10 away from home. Is 10-4 a satisfactory record at this juncture of the season in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a win loss perspective, you could look back at it and say, sure, we could be 12-2 if we close out, the Saturday game at St. Mary's and the Saturday game at home against Nevada. And we're still working through the bullpen and what that was going to look like and who were going to be the key guys. So, be easy to look at and go, yeah, we could be 12-2, but we also could have lost all 4 games at Oregon. Those
Hmm.
things were so close. And, we've had some 1-run games that have gone our way and some close games. And, one run game on Saturday against San Diego, and 3 1-run games against Oregon, and yeah, I think the LMU game was a 2-run game. So we've had some close games, and so I think 10-4 is probably fitting of where we're at. I think I think we probably played worse than that at times.
At times, certainly, yeah.
Yeah. So
From
I
from
think,
our from our eyes, yeah, for sure.
yeah, when you're talking about playing as well as you can play, it hasn't felt like we've done that yet. And so, um, based on how we played to go 10-4, yeah, I think I feel good about that.
Yeah, and RPI is sitting, at least last time I checked before we went on, 26. It's been fluctuating a lot. Obviously, still early in the season, but going into Big West Conference play, and we'll get to that later when we talk about the conference. But going in with a strong RPI into the conference season, important, of course, for postseason regards. But 5-2, 5-3, beg your pardon, in true road games. 7-3 away from Caesar Wasaka Stadium. So Gauchos off to a good start, and they have a lot of home games to come, including this weekend against Cal State Fullerton. Before we get to Big West Conference play, you mentioned the Oregon series. We had 3 one-run games. The game on Sunday was 2 runs. It was back and forth. There were comebacks. It was tightly played, and the Gauchos showed a lot of grit because the walk-off homer on Friday. You lose the 7 inning game against a starter, Aon, who was throwing BBs out there, and it kind of felt like, uh-oh, here we go again. It's the 2020 series where Gauchos lose some leads late and can't bounce back, and the Ducks might win 4 games again. But Gauchos turned it around, and it was some clutch hitting. It was some clutch pitching, most notably out of the bullpen. Hattenbach, Ager, Harvey, and then the home runs by Mortensen, and it was a really, really exciting series. Can you talk about the Oregon series and how crucial that is to come back down 2-0 in the series to come out with a split?
Yeah, it would have been easy to fold their tents, and especially the blow on Friday where I think we're up 2-0 going into the eighth, and um, give up what we give up in actually going to the seventh. We give up
On the
one,
seventh.
yeah, 1-1, and then the walk off homer on the first pitch in the ninth, and um, so yeah, there's some resiliency, some grit. They bounced back. It was a hard fought series. There's some good pitching. There was some good offense in there. Um, they're I think they're a good team. I think they are really offensive. I think they've got enough arms. I think their bullpen is very good. Um, so to go on the road, and the way the RPI works, you get 1.3 points for a win on the road and zero point 0.7 at home. So when you look at it, it's like you won 2.6 games in a 4-game series from an RPI perspective. And so that's a positive as well. And I do like how the guys, showed some resiliency, and Harvey coming back and closing it out. I was happy he got to get back on the horse after suffering his first blown save. And I think he saved 4 since then, or 5 since then, 4 since then, or yeah, in our last, what is that, 6 games,
Well,
5 games.
I was thinking I've written down lead with Lewis here because Corey's been great on Fridays, but I think Harvey is still on the show because he saved all 4 games this week.
There you go.
He saved
There you go.
Sunday at Oregon, Tuesday against LMU, Friday and Saturday against UCSD.
Yeah, and that's what we had in mind when we moved him to the
Yeah,
pen. He's still
yeah.
got it. He's been able to do it, and I think he's settled into the role. And it seems like every time he gets out there, he looks a little more comfortable.
Hmm.
The first one looked a little uncomfortable and got through it, but he's he's looked more and more comfortable out there and has thrown the ball well and pitched better with his fastball. And so he seemed to embrace that role, which I know initially when we moved him from starter to reliever, he was disappointed. He did a good job of hiding it, and um, you know, he's a good teammate and a good kid, and so he kind of gave us whatever he needed me to do. But I knew he really wanted to start, and he had earned an opportunity to start at the beginning of the year too. He'd thrown the ball well, but just the way the pieces fit, we really needed him at the back end. Felt like we had some other people that maybe could do what he could do as a starter, but not many people that could do what he could do on the back end of a game, and he fits nicely there. So he's really been good, and we needed that. Early we had some question marks, and we're holding a lot of tryouts, and his ability to step up along with Michael Rice and Matt Ager, and it looks like Hattenbach starting to throw the ball well. We'll see. He's going to have to kind of bounce around and be a little bit of a swing man for us. I think he's going to have to get some starts and spot starts and maybe midweek starts and throw some long relief for us and also match up for us. So those guys have done a nice job at the back end.
Yeah, and the pitching's been strong. The ERA at 3.27. I'm sure you'd like to see some little, how can I say this, fewer walks. You want to see fewer walks, but guys have been punching out hitters. They've been doing a good job about that, and the starters have been great. I think Corey has been, as quiet a demeanor as he's got. I mean, he's pretty good on Friday with the 1.25 ERA so far, and you have a little confidence starting off the series with Corey, and then Gutierrez and Gallagher, nice on the weekend as well. And both new pitchers, Gutierrez a transfer, Gallagher the true freshman, and so they're kind of learning how to pitch on the weekend at the Division I level. But how have you felt like those guys have performed so far? Because it was them who kind of tandem for that 3-2 win on Saturday. It was Gallagher coming out of the pen and Mikey able to pitch out of trouble. He picked two guys off and he induced two ground ball double plays. So they've been finding different ways to get out of innings. How do you think that they have performed in your eyes so far?
Yeah, they've been solid. I think they've given us a chance to win, and knock on wood, we haven't had a blow up start. They've gotten into the fifth or the sixth, and they're all pitchability guys. Not huge fastballs, but have the ability to throw strikes and cross count, and have solid secondary stuff, and so yeah, I think as we build them up and they go more, it'd be nice to get Gutierrez and Gallagher deeper into games. They've both gone 4 or 5 innings. Now it'd be nice to get them into the 6th or 7th, and I think that's the next step for them, is being able to go out and take over a game for 7 innings. And they've been able to do it twice through the order, but that next step is being able to get through that order the third time. And it looks like Corey's on pace to do that. He's pitched deeper into the games. That's going to help save the bullpen. And so yeah, I've been pleased with those guys. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The walk totals are high, and frankly, that's 2 years of kind of high walk totals. We had higher walk totals last year. Now, we set the school record for strikeouts with I think over 500 strikeouts.
619.
600, sorry, yeah. So, and I think 5 years ago the record was in the 400s. So. We missed a lot of bats last year, and but there's been some walks that we would like to eliminate and be better at that. And I think this group's, last year it felt worse for some reason because a lot of them happened late. I think if we can get over the hump with that, I think the pitching staff has a real chance to really help carry the team and be a solid foundation. But we do need to minimize the walks. It hasn't bit us yet. We, besides one game where we blew a lead, but we're gonna need to minimize that so that we do give up a home run. It's a solo homer, not a 3-run homer.
I think one of the more impressive pitches that we've seen this year is Ryan Gallagher's changeup, and I'm going to ask this question to you. we've seen some good changeups from Gaucho pitchers in the past. Greg Malley, uh, Don Mazza. Is Gallagher? Is it the best changeup that you've seen as a Gaucho, or does it have the potential
I'd
to
love
be
to give
there?
him the credit, but Rodney Boone
Okay,
has,
And Rod, of course.
yeah, Rodney
Can't take
has
it from Rod.
yeah, he has the best changeup that I've ever coached in my career. And I mean, just look at his numbers. I mean, I think
Yeah,
he's where he's at from a all-time strikeout leader, single season strikeout leader, ERA. I think it was a Big West freshman co-pitcher of the year. I'm sorry,
yep.
Big West freshman pitcher of the year. Um, you know, three-time first team all conference. I don't even know. I can't keep up with it. He did a lot of stuff, and he did it, with a
With
big
the
changeup.
changeup. Yep.
With a big changeup. And Rod's was so good he could tell you it was coming, and you still couldn't hit it. Everybody knew. 3 years into it, the hitters all knew it was coming, and it was that good. And so Ryan's is close to that, but right behind it. I think if he can make one more jump with some consistency on the side spin and making sure they keep his arm speed up, I think those things will. Maybe he can catch up with Booney, but that's a tall order.
Okay. Had to
No
give
offense, Dom, and no offense, Craig.
but had to give Rodney a little love because we've been giving a lot of love to McGreevy the last few podcasts, and so have to shout out Rod Boone with that changeup.
Yeah,
But
go look at Rod's stats and his
Roddy.
his trophy
Okay,
trophy trophy
yes.
wall.
Let's jump over the offense a little bit before we get to Big West. Uh, it's been serviceable. Feels like there's untapped potential. We've had some surprises, and we've had some guys that haven't kicked into gear just yet. So when I say hasn't matched their full potential, I just know, and I'm getting these rumblings from the hitters like we're so close to busting out. Like we've put together some games where the hit total's been there. They've hit the ball over the fence and they've scored double-digit runs. And I don't know, I get kind of the feeling like you're playing with the lineup. You're trying to find combinations and variations that would allow for this offense to explode. But Vogt's been great. Willett's had an awesome weekend at UCSD. He hit the homer. He's got 3 homers in the last week. He hit one at Oregon, 2 against San Diego. Darby has been awesome. The 2 Oppo homers against Oregon. KJ been hitting the 2-hole, hitting above 300 on base percentage, leading the team in walks, driving in some runs, and Mortensen obviously with the 4 homers. A couple of them, 2 really big ones against Oregon, 2-run shots. So where do you feel about where the offense is at this point? Because I feel like some of the games the offense has won the game. Other times it's been the defense that's won the game, and other times it's been the pitching that's won the game. So that's a good thing saying that there's been games won in 3 different facets of the game. But last year it was we were very offensive to go along with good pitching staff, and this year it feels like we're so close to getting there offensively. But where are we at right now?
Yeah, we have the tools are there and the potential is there. I think if you talk to Donegal, I could feel the frustration with him a little bit of, them not performing to their, capabilities up to this point. And it's not that they've been bad.
Right.
The expectations are, especially after the last 2 years offensively, the expectations of it are really high, and we have an older, mature group. And I would agree with you. It feels like we're close to putting it together. And there's a few things like we had looked like we were going to score 15 on Friday and probably should have scored 15 on Friday, and then we ran ourselves out of some innings, and had some other at bats that some where we needed a directional hit or had the ability to play some team offense that weren't able to do. I think those are the moments that I know Donegal feels like we're close to that breakout where it turns into 15. That 9 really turns into 15, and and we needed to get a few of those in there because we've got some guys on the mound that haven't gotten some chances. because we, have gone to the same well with those guys, in the bullpen that have started to show some consistency. But, I really would have liked to have gotten, Alex Schreier, who's coming back off injury and feel like he's got a bright future and a chance to really help us. And, would like to get Huddleston back out there and, Gallegos back out there and some guys that have good arms and good stuff, but, maybe haven't thrown a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, where they came from or if they're here. And in Alex's case, and, due to injuries and COVID, Alex's was due to injury, but, Brady and Elliott's were due to some COVID stuff and I guess, and some injury stuff. So, anyways, we'd like to get those guys some innings, with a little bit of a buffer and a cushion, and that's where that putting together that full offensive game could help. Where it looked like Friday we were going to do it, and then even early Saturday, I mean, we got a bunch of hits and scored some runs, and then it got dark outside and nobody could hit after that on either side. So now I think the arms got pretty good too. They brought in some arms that were good. Thought our guys did a nice job. But it feels like we're close. I think there's been some base running mistakes. There's some approach stuff, some two strike approach stuff. Trying to cut down on the strikeouts. That I think if we could put some of those things together, I think we've got a chance to put some pressure on people. We can, we're leading the conference in stolen bases, which is, I think we've led last a lot of years. The last 2 years in a row for sure.
Yep.
We're fairly aggressive on the bases, but we've got a 5 hitters in a row there that can run, and if they get on base, can put some pressure on people from Xander to Sprinkle to Willow to even Willits can run a little bit. Mortenson's a good runner there. Nick Vogt can really run, and so you've got not only guys that can hit, but guys that have the ability to put pressure on you on the bases. And so we think it's got a chance to be an exciting offense and have the ability to do a lot of different things. But we've yet to put it together over the course of 3 or 4 days in a row.
Okay, let's jump over to Big West because we got conference play starting this Friday at home against Cal State Fullerton. And like last year, not the same Titans team that we are used to seeing, at least on paper, and what we've seen watching some video leading up to Friday. But when you start conference season, it's a whole new season. And I think the Gauchos learned that last year, where won the first 2 games against Fullerton, and then the Titans came back and won the next 2, and that was kind of a wake-up call. But looking at the conference as a whole, where we sit right now, this after having played 4 weeks of play, conference looks good at the top, but at the bottom, it has really, really struggled. There's 3 teams with winning records, and there's 4 teams with RPIs in the 200s. So it's based on what I think and kind of my observations of the conference, looking at the scores and watching the standings go up and down throughout the year so far. Winning the road series is going to be crucial. The midweeks late in the year are going to be crucial because there's some good teams on the schedule. There's UCLA, USC, Pepperdine, which are all off to good starts. They have RPIs in quadrant 1, quadrant 2. And then there's St. Mary's, whom the Gauchos play next week. Those are going to be tough games because St. Mary's off to a 12-2 start, but they have an RPI in the 200s because they've played some teams with low RPI numbers. So that's going to be a tough game, both of those games in the midweeks. So I'm not trying to look too far ahead, but Gauchos got to take care of business against teams that are really struggling. And when you look at Riverside, you look at Davis, they have 1 win so far combined between the 2 teams to this juncture of the season. So I don't know, Big West, everyone knows everybody so well, and the beginning of the season sometimes is lost and forgotten by the end of the season because there's injuries, there's players coming back, there's, you figure yourself out as a team, like all this stuff that happens. But as a coach, when you're going into the first weekend of the conference season, like, are you sending a message to your team about it's a new slate, or are you just sending the message of let's continue to work on what we've been working on?
Yeah, I haven't really talked.
It sounds like let's just keep the ball rolling.
And I traditionally don't make a big deal out of conference play. I mean, we're trying to play the game one pitch at a time, and we're trying to get everybody to take this one day at a time. And it's cliche, but it's real. And I think the teams that can keep their heads down and stay off the scoreboards and stay focused on getting better and preparing, have, that gives you your best chance to win and stay off of the standings and all those things. So, I don't have a big speech ready to go for conference opening weekend, and I think we've been able to get in as an at-large team, over the years. So, those non-conference games matter. Those midweek games matter. If you don't end up winning the conference, you want to have a chance to hear your name called, and get in the tournament. And so we have to do everything we can to be ready to have success regardless of who we play. And so the conference championships run through Fullerton for who knows how 90% of the last 25 years. So it's hard. You can't overlook them. You never can. And Coach Walton's there, who was here, and we know he's a good coach, and we'll have those guys prepared. And on the offensive side, and they've got Coach Dietrich, who's a new head coach and pitching coach, and he's obviously very accomplished and has done a good job and won everywhere that he has gone. So they will be well coached, and that's the expectation, is that we're going to need to have our A game. And I think that they played Gonzaga, who's really good, and
Mm-hmm.
for 3, and they played Stanford for 3, and so they've had a tough schedule. So I looked at their win-loss record and kind of laughed and thought, I know they're better than that, just based on who they played. And so, trying to get ready for those guys. And then, in regards to the conference, the RPI can be a little misleading. When I look at it, I have a tendency to look at, win-loss percentage, because 50% of our RPI is our opponent's win-loss percentage. So it's one of the ways that the SEC and the ACC are able to kind of load up on wins early on in the season. And I think they've started to schedule a little more competitively, but for the most part, they're 75% of their non-conference games are at home, and their midweeks aren't against UCLA and USC and schools in Pepperdine and schools of those caliber. And so they're able to build up win-loss percentages, and then they play each other. And the way the math works, that they get 50% of their opponents' win-loss percentage. So when everybody has a high winning percentage, then it's hard to have an RPI below 50, even if you don't win very many games. And so, for our conference, that's a little bit of the scary part of it, is with, I think last year there were only 2 teams with winning records. I think us and Irvine, maybe somebody else snuck in there. Cal Poly might have gotten there.
It was either slightly above or 500, or slightly below,
Yeah,
with Long Beach and Cal Poly. Yeah.
I don't think there was more than 3. And so looking at that, as you get to go play each other, now those win-loss percentages, jump onto your RPI. It's 50% of our RPI. And so that can hurt you. And so that's the concern. When I look at it, when I look at our RPI, and I look at, Irvine's and Northridge's, and then Long Beach made a big jump. When I look at those RPIs, I just think, I don't know how all of those RPIs survive the conference play. And so my fear is it could turn into a one big league, really fast, just based on doing the math. So ultimately, we've got to go out and try and be successful and get better every day, and hopefully that leads us to a conference championship, which is right now everybody's 0-0, and that's the goal for everybody.
Yeah, it's a new season, and Gauchos have been playing good ball. 5 wins in a row, and all of those were by one, two, or three runs. You mentioned Fullerton's win-loss record 4-10. I mean, I look at Long Beach, like they had those two big wins at Mississippi State to start the year, and then they come home and they got swept at home by Sac State, who wound up I think they won their first 9 games of the year. So they were red hot going into Long Beach State, who then played UCLA. Then they just played Gonzaga this weekend, who's in the top 25. Gonzaga had wins at Oklahoma State. So you look at Long Beach, 7-7, but they played a tough schedule,
Yeah.
just like Cal State Fullerton has. So looking at win-loss record and looking at RPI, sometimes not the best way. I mean, that's what people like me in the quote media, this is our job to speculate and talk about win-loss records and RPI and trying to create a story and have a cool storyline going to the broadcast and going into the weekend series. And when it's Fullerton and Santa Barbara, it's no matter what, it's going to be a good series. I mean, we've had some whales of games over the last few years, and this weekend's going to be no different. And I'm excited for it. And we expect to see lots of people out at Cesar Wasaka Stadium this weekend. I think it's weird talking at this juncture of the season having only played 4 home games. And we had great turnout against Nevada. All those games, it was pretty full. Sitting up top, like great ambiance with the crowd mic on the radio. Like that series was really fun. And so I anticipate this weekend being really fun too, with Cal State Fullerton coming to town, and the folks have showed out so far. So we apologize for only having 4 games at this point. So lots more home games to come.
Yep, no, that wasn't the plan.
Right, I know. Supposed to have 3 home games last weekend.
Yeah, I'm anticipating we'll have a decent crowd this weekend, and so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then 5-game road trip after that. So get your kicks while you can. Because Gauchos go to St. Mary's, to UC Davis, and then to UCLA before coming home to play Hawaii for the second home series at home. So it's Fullerton at home, Davis on the road, Hawaii at home, the first 3 series in the Big West. And, I think that covers it. So
yeah, we got to get home because I'm moonlighting as a Dos Pueblos Little League assistant coach, and it's hard for me to get to the games or practice when we're on the road. So,
yeah.
I might get fired here pretty soon. So
let's hope that doesn't happen. All right, Coach Checks. It's been a good start to the year so far, and I'll see you at the yard.
All right. Thanks for everything, Kev.